everybody. Welcome to Warrior Spotlight, where the stories are real, the emotions are raw, and the hearts are courageous. We are back again tonight with William Bruck.
The man, the myth, the legend.
The man, the myth, the legend. So we're going to give everybody a few minutes to hop on here to make sure everything's going right. Super excited about our new studio, and then the camera we got was crap, so we couldn't use the camera, so we're back to the standard phone. Poor Corinne, she was here for 3 hours helping me last night, and we still couldn't follow through. My husband's checking it, so we could see if everybody's on us, we're the right way, maybe. Stand by. Oh, we are the right way. Hey, how about that?
Yeah.
Anyways, always my co-host, Billy Paxton, my husband, one and only.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Good evening.
So we are going to start with a few announcements before we get into more Mr. Bruck's story. So we have to start with, we are so excited. So Joel today went to the Sylvania Chamber. We've been a chamber. President Joel.
The
yes.
prez.
The prez, the one and only. And so he went to the Sylvania Chamber today, and we were awarded the 2021 Chamber of Commerce Organization of the Year. Look at, we're so excited.
Wow.
Yes, and we got
Yay.
flowers, and we're so excited.
Is it a golf clap?
We were excited to be that winner, and I was
Yes,
excited that
that's
Joel was
awesome.
there to,
Yeah.
to receive the
accolade.
accolade. Yes,
Cool.
and we've got
That's
many
awesome.
emails from the people at the chamber said congratulations,
Yeah.
and they were
Oh,
sending me
cool.
pictures of Joel already.
Right.
So excited about that.
Okay, cool. Can't wait to post them.
I know. I'll be posting later. Okay, so May 20th, I'm sorry if you missed out. One of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to really watch our Facebook posts and our website events. Our May 20th dinner is already filled up, and it's going to be at Indian Creek Zoo. We only had 50 spots to fill, and it went in less than 24 hours we were filled. So we're super excited about that. We're getting pizza donated. More to tell you about that. May 23rd, we are having a Women's Day retreat. The link is out on Facebook. Kyle put that out there today, and you can go to our website to find that as well. So those are all the events we do want to promote too. June 12th, Women's Veterans Day. So we want to start really hitting that hard. It's a month away. This is our first big fundraiser. So mark it on your calendars, June 12th. And it's going to be from 6 to 10, and you can find out all the information on our website regarding that event.
So question, what animals are they eating at the zoo?
Pepperoni.
Pepperoni, okay.
That's pepperoni, the name of the camel.
Just cheese.
Just cheese.
Just cheese.
Okay, no meat.
No
Okay.
meat, just cheese
All right.
pizza.
All right. Just want to clarify that.
No. Okay, so
I
we,
said no, okay.
I know, so we're gonna recap a little bit from having you here the last time.
That was like 3 weeks ago. Or
That was 2
4
weeks ago. It was just 2.
Okay, 2 weeks ago.
'Cause
Yeah, we had one visit, or
Yeah.
one guest since then.
yeah, last week we had Jason Kelly,
Jason,
the DJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, and from his
Pick your yeah, he was funny.
Book Your
Did
DJ.
you watch his show last week's? Did you get
I
to
think
see
I've
any
seen
of
a
it?
little bit.
That dude was a card, man. Well, yeah, how he got involved to go to the military. They was at a flop house, like a party house. Who was it? His uncle or cousin?
I don't know.
But he was funny, wasn't he?
But you can watch the show,
Yeah.
so that's not what we're here to
No.
talk about tonight.
Well,
So
He woke up on the steps at the Marine at Camp
Signed up.
Paris Island. Yeah, because it was just how it all. He was still hungover when he signed up. It seemed like he was hungover for the week. He was fun. Oh God.
okay, anyways, I'm sorry, William.
Bada boom, bada bing, bang.
All good.
Bada boom, bada bing, bang.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Stop
he's
it.
good.
Oh, this is what you get on the show. Okay, so we had you back a couple weeks ago, and you told us all about not all about it, but you told us about your basic training experience.
A little bit, yeah. I had a little more to say, but yeah.
That's okay, and you're gonna
That's
get
why
to you're gonna get to fill us in on that for sure. And we are gonna be posting a picture of his TI from basic training. What did you call him?
TI, what's a TI?
Your DI? What do you
Drill
call
sergeant?
it?
DI.
Oh, DI?
Yeah.
Okay,
Drill instructor. yeah.
training instructor, whichever.
No, we don't do training anymore. We do drilling.
Okay, so drilling got me
Drilling.
all. Okay,
Yeah.
he was your drill instructor.
Yes.
Got it. So anyways, we are going to be posting pictures so you guys could see him, cause evidently he was a terror.
Yeah, he had beautiful blue eyes.
How was
Now,
his
should I
breath?
speak to you now? See, I was sitting there last time.
Just
Am I
speak to the
supposed
camera.
see you?
Speak to the
Speak to
Am I
the
supposed to
camera.
be looking
Yeah,
at
it's
the,
kinda, we're gonna get that, yeah.
Yeah,
at the flip phone?
yeah,
Okay.
speak to the camera, we're listening to you, it's okay if you do this too.
I'm used to people not listening to me though.
Oh no, I'm listening very attentively.
Okay.
Just talk to the phone.
Not the hand, the phone.
I usually don't answer my phone, so this is gonna be hard.
Okay. Oh, we're gonna tell about him?
Oh, did you wanna hear? I thought you were doing the introductions.
Who's the gentleman next to you? The kid next to the guy next to you?
That's one of my best friend growing up. He came to visit me at the
Oh, did he? I
graduation
gotcha.
racing train. Steve was his name.
Mhm.
So all my sisters and my friend came down, and my mother.
Nice.
So you're gonna post a picture of evil Sergeant
Yes,
Benson?
yes, I will
Benson,
post
huh?
it so everybody can see
Yeah.
it, yes.
Yeah, he's an evil guy. So, but they gotta see his eyes though.
Yes.
They gotta be able to see his eyes. Maybe
I will zoom in on his eyes.
he could hold them up, cause it
Oh,
won't.
here he comes.
It won't make such an impact if people can't see
Got it.
the man.
Stand by, here you guys go. Ready?
The man in the infamous eyes.
Can you see his eyes? Oh, now you can see his eyes, yeah.
Perfect,
There you go.
perfect.
There
So
you-
he was chewing your ass, huh?
So this is Drill Sergeant Benson. So he was the, as you referred to him, the spawn of Satan last time I was here. And the mural on the wall was, we actually repainted the entire building, all the murals, because none of the murals were evil enough for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we had to put skulls and death and various things.
So he did his job quite well, it sounds like.
Yeah, he trained us well, and I was gonna speak to cleaning toilets. So a lot of people don't understand what it means to clean toilets and bathrooms until you actually go to basic training. And so Drill Sergeant Benson. So this will kind of, he was an evil man. I think I said he was an evil man before.
Yeah, spawn of Satan.
Spawn of Satan.
Mm.
And when you clean the toilet, so there was a deal he made with us when we cleaned toilets in our bathroom. So there's 40 guys, 40 Joes that use the same bathrooms.
How many toilets though?
There were, if I recall correctly, there's like 4 commodes, but we only used 1 or 2, you know, to try to keep them clean. I mean, that's what you do.
Oh, I got you, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
Because the
does.
more you use
The
and
more-
abuse, the
yeah.
more you have to
Right.
clean. So if
You don't
had
add and subtract though,
bathroom-
didn't you know how to add and subtract?
Stop, okay.
we weren't very good with that. It was, did I mention that there's only 3 working shower heads?
No, we're sticking with the
Okay.
toilets first.
I'll try to keep
I wanna
this
get to the
G-rated
toothbrush.
though.
Was there a
Okay.
toothbrush involved?
Oh, there's toothbrushes and cups involved, so. So when we cleaned the toilets, Drill Sergeant Benson's deal was, when we were done, he was gonna drink from the toilets.
Right, I knew that was coming,
Oh.
right.
So once you were done with the bath, and not only him, but the person who cleaned the toilet also drank and
Oh, kinda-
partook.
oh,
So
I
it's kinda like
gotcha.
evil
Yeah.
communion of sorts.
Yeah, so to speak, yeah.
Evil
Kind of a rite of
communion.
passage, you know, yeah.
And this didn't happen just once, this was multiple times. And so, but he did say that if he ever tasted anything but water in that taste, you know, it was the end of the line for having cleaned that toilet. So, as you can imagine, those toilets were pristine. But that's one thing that he did.
That's-
Did he
Yeah.
really drink out of it?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I believe it
They
did.
would toast and then they would drink, yes.
Sure.
It was horrible.
Yeah, but porcelain, yeah, I got you.
It was horrible.
But, I mean, porcelain does clean up well.
It does,
Yes.
it really
The
does.
American
Bleach,
standard.
yep,
yeah.
and bleach, yeah. I got you.
So did we like take you back into that memory
Well,
bank?
you started, you know,
The wheels are
re-rolling
turning,
some
yeah.
wheels. I mean, it definitely got some things churning up.
Yeah.
And so those memories came back. The 3 shower heads. So if you can imagine pushing 40 guys, 40 Joes through 3 shower heads in about 10 minutes.
Mhm.
It's quite an assembly line.
Right.
You get wet, you get soap, you get wet again, and you get out. That's really what it is.
The hot spots
It's
are
a
all
very,
out.
very close knit group,
Synchronized,
yes.
like, yeah, I bet it was
Yes.
kinda like.
You
Two
do not-
steps up,
you
two
do not
steps
drop
back.
that
You
soap.
share, you have soap on a rope?
No soap on
some
a rope, no,
no.
it was shared soap all the
I
way
got
down.
you. I would, right.
Yeah, it was.
I held it for you, you held it for me type of thing.
In ODI, you know, Benson, good man Benson, he stood outside and watched and checked to make sure everybody's wet
Yeah,
completely.
sure.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that
Mhm.
these
That's
memories.
camaraderie.
Well, yeah, and I love that these memories were triggered because
Mhm.
they were back in your bank for a minute, right? And you probably haven't thought about them in a while.
It's been a while, yeah, I had to dig.
You were
deep
able to
into this
sleep
picture.
though when you went home after.
Oh,
you
and a couple nightmares later, but.
I didn't wanna bring that up because I didn't know how sensitive it was, maybe, yeah, it's like,
Right.
it's like, whoa.
I just broke your table.
I'm not sure what just happened. No, I think it's pretty good. I don't know what happened.
I got
I'm
you.
trying to lean on it.
Yeah.
So that was a little memory I wanted to
Yeah,
recap.
yeah.
You know, just because some people, everybody has a different experience when they
Sure.
go through basic training or
Mhm.
boot camp,
Right, I believe that. Mhm.
or Air Force. It's more like camp, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so everybody has a different experience, and so some people don't quite understand
We did
it.
have to clean toilets too, you know.
But did you drink out of the toilets?
No,
Uh-huh.
just because we're smarter than that.
Yeah.
Touche.
Yeah.
That's pretty good though.
Oh, okay. So the last time you were with us, we covered this amazing demon, and then we talked about you had just gotten home from a deployment, your 4th deployment.
Yeah, and it's already been like 6 weeks now.
Isn't that crazy?
It does fly. Maybe it's 6 weeks. It's
You've
just
been
over
home 6 weeks already.
6 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
And we were talking a little bit about your transition of or your reintegration, because transition happens when you leave the military or when you retire the military and you go into the civilian world. That would be more of a transition. Integration is integrating back in to the
Being successful with the integration. Or, yeah, with
Yeah.
the transition, I should
Yeah,
say.
like what that looks like. So, we talked about a little bit what it looks like for you as a family. You have a very large family.
Yes, very large.
And then you also own your own business. So not only are you trying to reintegrate into the civilian world, into your home life, you're trying to reintegrate back into the business world, running a business and what that looks like.
Slowly, but it's been taking care of itself, so that's actually a good thing.
It is.
I mean, it's allowed me to integrate back in
Mhm.
during this transition
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully be successful.
Mhm.
We're trying to be successful. But
Yeah.
It's definitely helped out. Not having to go back to work immediately has been a big help.
And so you think that was one of the major differences of not rushing back into work? Or what was your mindset of going, if I have the ability to do this? Was it the staff that you had that was running your company? Or was it a different kind of mind shift that you had, like, I'm just gonna,
I think it was necessity, like to keep my kids' family and marriage, it had to happen differently than it did before.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So obviously, you know, being deployed 4 different times has 4 different sets of circumstances that sometimes repeat themselves.
Mhm.
And every transition is equally hard but different.
Mhm.
And so this last time, it was more of a, so I can give probably a little background, but, you know, being gone for this year has given me a lot of time. I was alone for most of the time, which allowed me to think through a lot of things. Natalie and I had a lot of talks, but I have to go, you know, back when I left, I still hadn't ever really integrated back after my last tour. So there was a long period of time where I wasn't really functioning the way I was supposed to be. And so this tour allowed me to really think about how I wanted to come back
Reflecting,
in.
yeah, sure.
And how I wanted to transition back in and hopefully be successful is the goal.
Not make the same mistakes and different things. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
Add on to them.
Yeah.
And it is amazing when you are blessed enough to be able to have that opportunity to have that alone time. It's good and bad when you're deployed like that, right? To be able
Yeah.
to reflect on those type of things. But you went with a crew of 7 other men.
7 other, yeah,
7
so
other
there's 8
men.
of us total,
Mhm.
and for the most part I was by myself, you know, vast majority of, at least like about 6 months I was by myself.
So did they deploy onesies as well, or did they deploy in little groups?
1s or 2s or 3s, it depended on the mission, but they were grouped together, usually they were grouped together, yeah.
And was this more than somebody's first deployment as well in the team that you went
Out of
with?
the 8 that went with us, 2 were non-deployed before, or how do I say that? It was their first
First,
deployment
sure.
for 2 of them.
Mhm.
And then the other ones, it was either their second or one person, well, it was everybody's second trip overseas,
Mhm.
except for myself. One individual had a couple tours stateside for DI,
Mhm.
for drill instruction, so,
Mhm.
I mean, it was a stateside tour, but
Mhm.
a tour itself, I guess, so that was his fourth tour.
So, because I don't know how it works, I know you are a chief warrant officer 4. So do you oversee troops?
No, that's what's nice about being a warrant officer, we don't take care of troops.
Okay. So,
We just take care of ourselves and our mission, our job.
okay.
Very technical, whatever's needed for that particular mission or job.
Mhm.
So who oversees the troops? Who is responsible for the troops?
Their units, I guess, or lieutenants.
Oh, yeah.
Lieutenants.
Mhm.
That's so scary to me.
Yeah, you can't
I know
spell
that-
loss without an LT, so,
I know what lieutenants are like in the Air Force, so that's really scary for me.
yeah, I mean, the larger units, engineer units were actually performing work that we were recommending or designing, but
Mhm.
really those were outside of our control, we were our own little group. I
Mhm.
mean, we had an OIC that took care of us, or, commanded us, so to speak, but
You're part of an engineering.
engineering group,
Group, yeah, I got you. Electrical?
I was electrical, everybody else had their own disciplines,
I got you.
mechanical and civil engineer and
So did you engineer anything that went over there, or was it all
all in country.
all
yeah.
in country,
Yeah.
everything?
Yeah.
So what is, I know we talked a little bit about Natalie last time, so let's talk about the kids, what it's been like. Because we know each one of those have their own ways of, feeling about you being gone and coming back home, right? Their little minds are very
They
independent,
all
right?
process it differently, for
Correct.
sure, yeah, they all process it differently, and each time, so this is the fourth time coming home where I've had little kids essentially close to the same age, and even the same age, they process it differently and react differently.
Mhm.
It's been unique every time.
Mhm.
So how are they doing? I guess, I mean, I think they're doing much better. It really is a different way of doing it this time
Mhm.
through.
Mhm.
So being home for 3 weeks straight was a big difference for the children. The last week, there's been some struggles here and there, so it's, that's normal in life though, I think,
Mhm.
but,
Sure.
at times, you still have to work through the issues
Mhm.
and overcome them. But overall, I would say, and I'm sure Natalie would say too, that the kids are responding much differently than they have in the past. Mostly because I'm there
Mhm.
and present,
And
which
we-
is different.
And we know for kids, like when I would get ready to deploy, I would make sure that I would let the teachers know, right? Saying, okay, I'm gonna be gone for X amount of time. If there's different behaviors, let dad know or just know why it could be happening, right? Because they go through that. That's a long time for a dad to be gone, a long time for a parent to be gone, right? And then you're in an environment where, scary things happen to them, right? And so, I don't know what your TV situation is at home or what they can hear at school and stuff like that, but as much as we wanna protect them, it's always not that way. Right.
Yeah, we don't watch much TV at the house. Actually, we don't have a TV. I guess that's why we have 9 kids.
Mhm.
Okay, I
I've
like
been told that.
Okay.
Glad you said it.
You're too slow.
No, I already know. She's been waiting for me to say it, and I haven't said it, out of due respect. Right, Ma?
That's right.
But I think
But
I
speaking of that.
understand, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, we won't know for another 7 months, so we're.
Oh, I didn't mean that.
Just joking, just joking. But
Well,
Well,
was
Natalie's
something
not
different.
watching right now, so you're good with that one.
Yeah, she probably is not.
Yeah, okay.
She's
I'm
probably
safe.
busy.
I just
Yeah.
noticed that she's not, so, yeah.
And we'll block her from watching it.
Oh, so let's talk about that piece a little bit, right? So, you had said, when you were on here last time, you're like, who's gonna watch it? Is there really people that watch it? And literally before I was out of the parking lot, I had a text that said, I can relate to what he's talking about, right? And that's exactly why we do what we do, right?
Yeah.
Because you instantly impacted a viewer, right? So it doesn't have to be 20, you could change somebody's life, right, with the words that you're saying here, right?
Hopefully in a good way.
Yes, definitely in a good way, because when you make it relatable to other people, they don't feel alone in it, right? They do not feel alone in it.
And we don't like to feel alone. I mean,
And so I was thinking like veterans, veterans normally, what is the issue when a veteran comes home? And hopefully there's no psychiatrist watching, because I'll probably blow their mind.
Okay.
But, I'm certainly wrong, but, when veterans hate, I don't say hate, number one, they don't like to fail, I guess.
Sure.
Veterans like success. I mean, that's one thing, where we come back, why is it so hard to integrate? Because, well, we don't like to fail. And when we come home, things are not different. So that's I think a big part. The other thing is we don't like to fail. We want to be or belong and be accepted. So wherever we are, when we come home, that follows with us. And then the third thing, I can't remember what it was, but actually, bad memory. Bad memory. That's what it is. But those two things there, wanting to belong. So after World War II, like we take care of older vets, and after World War II, everything that they went through, and I won't compare what we went through with the hellacious experience at World War II, but I mean, literally, 400,000 people died in World War II, Americans, and the amount of carnage that they went through doesn't compare to what we went through. It's same with Vietnam. 50,000 troops died in Vietnam. Yeah, we had a lot of people die in Iraq and Afghanistan, 5,000-ish in each location, but they dealt with a lot more. But they still come through with the same issues. And after World War II, there wasn't motorcycle clubs and gangs before World War II. The people that created motorcycle clubs were World War II vets, because they were looking for a place to belong.
Sure.
And not just to belong, they are still, we call them the greatest generation. They came back and they worked, etc. But they were also looking and seeking for that camaraderie that they left.
Right.
And to be accepted, and they didn't find that at home. I want to say, that's a generalization.
Yeah.
But they went outside the home, and so they started motorcycle clubs, which became gangs, and, hence what we have today. The same, with every war, when vets have come home, they have a hard time fitting back in. I mean, the Vietnam vet is really, they made, I don't know how many shows that I watched in the 80s that, one of the kids' dads on, whatever sitcom you're watching is a Vietnam vet, and what was he? He was a crazy, insane guy.
Yeah, they portrayed him that way, right, sure.
Shouting and, like he didn't fit back in, but that was a generalization, but there's a lot of truth to that, where vets, we always wanna come and fit in and belong. And then secondly, we don't like failing. So, if we start not belonging and not being accepted, which happens a lot in your family structure, then you feel like you failed, which means that, you're not victorious, and that's a double whammy. Those are two things that vets really have a trial with. And as I look back on my previous 3 tours, every time I came home, that was a reoccurring thing. Failing at home or not belonging at home. Not that, Natalie's great.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get me wrong, she's great, but there was a sense that I didn't fit in back the way I did before. And being accepted as the new person I am. It definitely wasn't a new and improved person, but the new person I was, fitting back in the way I did before. And then secondly, failing, where you get in that cycle. I think I talked last time. It's a cycle of failure, where you come home after that big hurrah, you come home, and then reality hits you pretty hard, and then you're constantly, disappointing yourself as well as your family in that cycle. And the more you do it, the worse it is, because you fail and refail. Then you get a little better and then fail again, and it's just very difficult. So then you go to the first one of leaving because you don't belong, or you're not, I want to say not accepted, but you're not fitting in the way you thought you could just jump right back in as dad or mom or grandpa or uncle, whatever, all these family structures, all of that.
The part that mean, I feel so grateful that God has led me to start this organization.
Me too.
We had a Vietnam veteran on the show several months ago, right? And he talked about what it was like coming home. And he put himself in an insane asylum like 7 times, right? Just trying to get himself right, right? And his daughter was on the show with him as well. But he talked about what it's like to come home, right? That those exact words that you just said came out of his mouth, right? And that just stuns me. It stuns me that it's a thing today, right? That piece of it has not changed. Nobody has figured out how to make that integration a little bit better. That's why we do the family things that we do. That's why we try to build the community on the outside, bringing it in so they know, veterans know that it's a safe zone, that there's safe community partners, and it's fun places to go, right? And it is, as you were talking, I could look back on one of my deployments, right? And being gone, and it was so crazy because I said, if I died today, just watching my family through social media on one of my last trips, right? It's like, if I died today, I would know exactly what it looked like, right? So where would I fit into it? Those were legitimate thoughts that I had when I was gone, right? So this is how my family's carrying on without me. So I already had that sense of loss before I even ever came home, right? I was like, they've proven they don't need me, right?
And that's a thought that we go through. I mean, I've mentioned that many times, with Natalie, sometimes jokingly, because I tend to joke a little bit.
Probably too much, I've been told. But, sometimes in a serious note
Too, like, it's doing great without him, but we don't see from overseas. Now,
Right.
Natalie didn't tell me half of what went on at home, and I didn't tell her 3/4 of what went on overseas. That's
Mhm.
just the way it.
it seemed to help and make it work. But last time, after my third tour, that's when
I had the worst issues, or
I would say cumulatively, it added up to.
very bad. And in 2016, I did start going to the VA.
I actually started speaking to somebody, went to counseling, went to group studies,
These things that are supposed to help you.
and, I told the story about,
I had the sleep apnea. I got that sleep machine, which helped tremendously. But
that's not what really fixed me. I don't wanna say fixed as, screws and bolts and nuts.
Right, yeah.
Sorry,
I'm mixing my words up. But
when I was going through this counseling at the VA in 2017, they wanted to give me drugs.
essentially,
They they failed to diagnose me with PTSD.
they just said I had anxiety
And ended up speaking with a counselor, with this doctor, and met with her multiple times. And this was after, essentially, I was told, my family was either you get help or you need to leave. You really need to think about this. I mean, that's really what drew me or sent me to the VA to get help. But through this process, eventually it got to the point where
the doctor said,
I had refused the drugs a number of times. And so it came down to the wire where she said, if you're not gonna take these, if you're not gonna take what's prescribed to you, then we're going to have to withdraw you from this program. Essentially, if you're not following
Right.
the rules that I wanna
Sure.
put forth to you, then, you can keep going to the group study, but we can't meet anymore. I was just like, that blows, like,
Right.
thank you very much, see ya.
Right.
so in the end,
The VA, it helped me get one little more step, but it didn't help our family structure. In the end, after that was really, I wandered a lot. And if you talk to Natalie and had her on the show, I'm certain she'd say the same thing, is,
I became the absent
father, because I didn't feel I belonged. I was failing every day, multiple times, and I didn't feel like I fit in that family structure, so I removed
remove myself from it.
because every time I was there, I failed. It was really, really vicious. And
Vicious cycle.
it was a-
Yeah.
Very dark, black time period for our family and
Mhm.
for our marriage as well.
And it's a miracle. I do give, all thanks to God that we stayed together, and to Natalie for just being incredibly stubborn.
Patient,
You know,
and
and
all the
patient and loving.
words, yep.
You know,
Committed, everything. You can
But
say,
even
yeah.
in all that, she loved me
Mhm.
greatly, probably, I mean, more so than anyone ever could, even in all my failures, but still didn't know what's the key to, you know, getting your veteran back together. Like, there was some unknowns that neither one of us either weren't willing to look at or didn't know. As you said, I didn't feel accepted, or I didn't feel like I fit in. She didn't know how to make me fit in.
Mm-hmm.
So this last tour, before I left, I mean, I'd left in early 2020 to go to a month of training. And I was like, yippee, I'm out of here for a month. I mean, I didn't physically do that,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
especially in front of Natalie, but that was my mentality, like,
Mhm.
I get a break.
Mhm.
Thank you, Lord, I'm getting a break from this. I
Mhm.
need a break. And that's, every time I left, was, I'm getting this break. And that's horrible, you know, and looking back, it's horrible, but that's how I left on this last deployment. This last deployment was not that I volunteered, or not that, you know, I'm glad I'm leaving, because number one, I had the business, I mean, I had a lot of things going on, but it was still an escape for me, a way to escape again, which I've done over and over. And they say, you know, deployments are addictive, and you've, I'm sure, met
Yes.
many people, and I know many soldiers and airmen that they just go and go and go. They volunteer over and over because it's easier to be gone than it is to be home.
Yes,
Mhm.
that-
So what is that connection that allows this time to be different? And I do give a lot of credit to Little Blessings and Duke Farms and everything that Natalie was able to do with you guys and the children, as well as me, to see that happening, and to have an opportunity to be alone and think about it.
Yeah, 'cause it's probably helping you make, you know, knowing that, not to say you need to get your shit together, but it also, look what they're working on, how they're, you know, helping themselves, and it probably helped you. And give you some relief to see that they're being taken care of too, has to help a lot too, I would think.
And I'm gonna say, it was probably a month or two that she was riding horses and talking to Mr. Ed before she even told me that she was, like, this is how disjointed we were as a family, and very, very, very ungood.
Mhm.
Finally, she's kinda surprised me and let me know. I was like, huh, that's crazy. You know, I didn't even know.
Mhm.
So that's sad in a lot of ways, but as she was going through this, she started bringing up things from the farm. And I'd say, you know, over the past year of being gone, we both developed at different rates in different arenas. You know, I'm overseas and she's in the horse arena,
Mhm.
like developing. And so when I came home, I can even go back before that, like mid-tour, we had some major controversy and conversations. It was not going to happen the way it happened before. But I guess what Duke Farms and you guys taught her was, not that she wasn't confident before, but she got a lot of confidence in doing what she did through the EGALA therapy.
Mhm.
And that helped her be more frank with me.
Right, yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah,
Sure.
she learned boundaries, right,
Mhm.
of which she didn't know that even existed, right? And that,
I don't know all the details of it, but I just know that if I was gonna be back in her world,
Mhm.
it would be different than it was before. I would be different.
right,
Mhm.
and she was able to find herself, and this is whether it's her or the other veterans that go through this program, right? Or on the spouses nights when the spouses come, right? It's really about, developing yourself, right? Because you have to be happy with yourself to be happy with anybody else, period, right? You have to be okay with you, right? And if you're not okay with you, it's very difficult to be okay with others, right? And it's a journey, a year. I mean, we're talking a year process. We're not talking 6 weeks, right? We're talking 12 weeks. We're talking a year, right? Plus, I'm going still, right? Still coming to spouses group and still, partaking in the family events that we do once a month, you know?
Yeah, she's done really well, and you know, a lot of vets, when we don't fit in and don't belong, then, I mean, we do things, you know, that's why there's drugs and alcohol and that is so prevalent with vets.
Mhm.
And vets get into gangs, and some good, some bad. I'm not saying motorcycle clubs are bad, but, you know, we find some place where people accept us for who we have become
Mhm.
and are. And I think also through what Natalie learned was that she understood through what she went through with you guys and the horses, that there is a new normal, and she needs to accept and can accept, you know, certain limitations. Obviously, there's some things that you can't accept as a you know, as a married couple and family. But I think she understood finally that allowed her to see that I won't be the same person I was before, and that's okay too. So there was I don't wanna say a compromise of sorts.
Yeah.
But it really was, and I mean, she had the fortitude to let me know it's gonna be this way and this is the way I am now. As far as being able to stand up for herself and speak her wishes known, make her wishes known. Not that she didn't do that before, but a lot of that was done in an unknown way. She didn't really understand, you know, who she was talking to, I guess, in some ways. I mean, she learned a lot about veterans, I think, through the program. as
Oh,
well.
for sure. And that, you know, and again, so much is just developed that we never even had planned, right? And so when we first wanted to launch this, it was about caring for the veterans, right? And then we discovered this need for the entire family, right? And the piece that I love, because I learned so much about me, is that, like in the spouses groups, is I spoke on behalf of the veterans, right? Not justifying any behaviors or anything like that, but really talking about what is common of the stuff that I hear every single day that comes out of veterans' mouths, right? Every single day, right? And so the spouses don't know that. They do not know that, right? How would they know that? They don't know anything that's behind the door, right? We know that because one, we try to protect them, right? We try to protect them, and they would never understand, right? And so
No,
for me to give a little bit of insight, right, and now for this population to be growing, you know, bigger with other veterans coming in, and you sharing this, I mean, I'm so proud of you, right, because, well, the reason that I say that is because it takes a lot, right? It
Sure.
takes a lot to talk about the mistakes that we made, because we just talked about that. We don't like to say that we're wrong.
We don't
right?
like failure, and
Right.
No, we don't like failure, but
Well, me
this
too,
is,
darn.
the,
Yeah.
this is the furthest thing from failure. Through my eyes, it's success, right? It is huge success. It's success for you, right? It's success for Natalie, and it's success for your family. Baby steps, right? Nobody's asking anybody to run quickly, right? It's all baby steps, right? That make it better the slower you go, right? And will there be stumbling blocks? Absolutely, right? But as long as, you know, we try to stay in the forward momentum, right, of what we're doing. But this is very, very,
therapeutic.
yes, very therapeutic. It is amazing, though, for other, because you're telling your story, right? And like I hear so many of them, right? I hear so many of them what I'm doing. And if you only knew how many were the exact same as yours. There are so
Yeah.
many.
Well, there's none exact the same, but
No.
they're all different. You know, and
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah.
you know, every deployment is different.
Mhm.
So, you know, I can say, well, I went to Iraq, or I went to Afghanistan, my tour was, you know, in Syria or wherever, and then you talk to a guy, well, I went to Kuwait, or I got deployed to Guantanamo Bay, or I went, you know, to South Carolina to do basic training. You say, well, you can compare every deployment is different, but yet they still carry the same, or can carry the same baggage when you return, because it's not
Right.
how many times you got shot at or blown up or you know, forced with life decisions. It's the being gone part and the changing while you're gone that creates the wall when you get back.
Right.
So I don't think civilians understand that.
No.
I mean,
because civilians don't leave their spouse for long periods of time, or their family. You know, they may go on a work trip for a week or two.
Only ones that get incarcerated.
Or if they're incarcerated, and I think there's probably, well, I know there is, a very high, you know, issue when incarcerated folks come back to their family. I mean, I guess that would be probably the only,
Well,
only
the
comparison.
absentness,
Right,
right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that absent,
Mhm.
individual.
So, when you boil it down, it's really that, you know,
You have changed, your family hasn't changed, or they've changed.
Sure.
and you weren't expecting them to change, but there's that wall that you come back
Well, with
to.
kids, a lot happens in certain developmental ages, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's like Corbin James at
Mhm.
4 to that 5.
Right.
That 1 year, there's a big curve, maybe, 9 to 10, there might not be. But, you know what I mean, depending upon the age of the child, 14 to 6, girls and different things, so depending upon the kid and where they're at, and then with you coming home to deal with it, some of that too is a big, not culture shock, but,
And,
has a lot to do with it.
yeah, and I've said this before, the military, and I've learned what gray looks like in the civilian world, right? Because it is not a non-existent color.
In the military world, it's black and white, right? You're either being told what to do or somebody's telling you what to do, right?
You don't get to just pick and choose what you wanna do in between, right?
But with that being said though too, you have your exact guidelines for,
From the minute you start basic training, I knew my path to make it to chief, without exception. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I knew the schools I needed to get done, I knew the time structure, I knew everything that was laid out in front of me for 15 to 20 years, right? Well, the civilian world does not work like that.
That's a long time.
yeah, and so for us to come out and operate and like,
The unknown is, or things get thrown in there, or you're just like, what is happening?
It is difficult, it definitely is difficult.
mm-hmm.
I mean, and I'd say after my third tour, I fought that.
And I think that fighting it was when I went through my darkest days,
Mm-hmm.
and
That was me trying to do what I was supposed to do. That's when I really struggled the most, was when I was actually trying to stay home and kept failing over and trying and failing.
and that created a very bad, psychological.
Thought process in my brain. And I really say, when that all changed when my father passed away at the beginning of 2017, that's really, at his funeral was, I don't wanna say a turning point. It wasn't a turning point to good, but it was a turning point in that from looking inward, I was looking outward after that. Like, after that point, I never once thought of killing myself. It was something clicked
Clicked,
at
right,
that
yeah.
point. But after that point, when my father passed away, I ostracized myself from my family. That's really when I ran. And I'm not proud of that at all, but at least quit thinking about killing myself. But during all that time, I'm going to the VA, there wasn't anything that they gave me that fixed that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe the drugs would have fixed it, I don't know, but I flat out was not going to take drugs.
Mm-hmm.
But after that point, from early 17 on, I was running. So I was no longer failing, and I was no longer not accepted. I was just where I was going, where I was accepted, and being a success at that. That's what kind of, I don't want to say helped me, but it was also running from the issue. And so this time, coming back, the goal has been not to run. And we did that by immersion. The first 3 weeks was spent simply with the family. I went to the office one time just to tell the folks at the office, thank you for doing everything for the last year,
Mhm.
good job, but I'm not gonna be around for the next 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and it ended up being 3+ weeks.
Mhm.
And the kids had their spring break for a week. I mean, that was true immersion.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't the easiest thing I ever done, but it wasn't the hardest thing I ever done either, once you're committed to doing it. That doesn't mean there hasn't been some hard days and hard times, or, you say something a little harsher than the children want to hear, and it causes them to contract you know, and then
you feel bad as the, you know, ex-soldier
Mm-hmm.
doing that, because it's always hard coming back into a situation as a parent, because you don't feel it's right.
you can't discipline your children, you can't talk harsh
To your children, you know, there's this
Right,
whole,
there's a line you're probably,
Yeah, there-
eggshells
there's a
walking on,
stigma,
sure,
yes,
yeah,
Mhm.
cause
I'm
you don't
sure.
wanna come home and be
Sure.
that bad
The
guy.
hammer or the
you know.
bad, yeah,
Mhm.
right,
And they don't want you to either, cause
Sure.
you know,
your kids look at you and they say,
you're the best papa ever, I love you, and you're thinking, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
you know.
Right,
But that too is part of it, right? To break that down.
Mhm.
So when you are,
When you were gone,
especially submerged in that environment for 10 months, right? And you are in a command position, right? So that makes it even more difficult, because what happens is when you go from A to B, people understand who you are and what your rank is, right? And
Yeah.
so it is just an acceptable thing, right? And so when you come from that environment of where, and it's not like you're this cocky asshole, that's not what it is, but where people respect the rank that you've earned, right? Civilians have no idea what rank is, they have no idea what it even means, right?
sometimes they're teenage boys that rank.
Right. But anywho, when you're in that mindset, right? When you are, you know, in charge of, I know you weren't this time, but when people are in charge of troops and they come home and they're like, okay, wait a minute, you know.
I was still thinking, I mean, when,
Yeah.
That's some of the most difficult things I have, is when I tell one of my children, you know, to do X, and they fail to do X. It's immediately, you know, the rise starts to rise.
Mhm.
And that's where I really have to fight and focus to not,
Mhm.
you know, react, which is what we as,
Respond, right, right.
which is, we as
soldiers, we
expect it to happen.
you know, back in basic training, you went to the pit of hell when you did wrong, you know,
Right.
or you're doing push-ups and sit-ups, like, so
Mhm.
you learn to obey immediately.
And I think that's the mindset
That all, you know, all military personnel have, is when they're told by someone they're supposed to obey to do something, it happens, period.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and we have a hard time,
In previous tours, and I haven't heard it this time, thankfully, but you know, Natalie,
God bless her, but one of the sayings she would say is,
you know, you're not in the Army anymore,
Right.
Will. You're not in the Army.
and that's true, but it also was aggravating.
Mhm.
You know, this is who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm getting beat up for who I am. You know, not that what I was saying
Tough
was
act.
correct,
It is,
right.
yeah, sure.
But
it may or may not have been the most kosher response.
Mm-hmm.
to actually get a sweet response from me, it was, and that hasn't happened this time. There's a lot of things that, you know, her responses are different this time coming home. And I thank God, and I thank Little Blessings for doing that,
Mhm.
because I think the
Gala and all that training and understanding herself and me better has allowed her to respond differently to, you know, my theatrics as well,
Mhm.
which definitely I'm far from perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So I am messing up, but
Mhm.
she's reacting differently to that.
Plus, you're recognizing it too, that helps a lot too.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
And that's a sad piece, that there is nothing out there for the families, right?
Little blessings.
Right.
Military kids.
Yes,
Mhm,
military,
right. I think-
yes. And that's exactly why we do it, right? Because it is, and we I know the 180th just deployed not long ago, right? And so, and we had a spouse come and join our spouses group while her husband was deployed. And she would not miss spouses group. It has been a lifesaver to her, right? But again, she gets a little look behind the door, right? So she can understand it a little bit more. Because how would they understand it, right? It's like we can't understand the
Does Billy
civilian side.
Understand?
No, no. But I couldn't understand the civilian perspectives either. How would we know them, right? Because like when I come home, it better be in order. Like when I walk through that door, it better look like that, right? When I walk through the door, if the house isn't clean until I'm cleaning it, right? That's such crap, right? Because, I mean, that's just in our mindset. It's
Yeah,
true,
well, it is
right?
funny
It's
that when
in
he
our
says
mindset. But
Mhm.
I mean, if you look back, and I went through a period in my transition of, you know, regret, right? But I can't live in regret. That's who I was. That's what I did. I can acknowledge how crappy I was, right? And learn to move forward from it.
I can't undo what I did. My kids are grown. You know, my kids are adults now. And, you know, that was very disappointing to me. You know, they are adults as they went through my military career.
One thing that has been through my mind, like most people don't have 9 children. That is one thing. I don't wanna say, you know, all the positives of having 9 children. There are some positives and there's definitely some negatives too, but, you know, as I've returned every tour and failed over and over again, I guess I have the luxury now of trying it right again.
No.
I know it sounds horrible, but
No.
No, it's
yeah.
kinda like
you
with
know, my youngest
grandkids.
is 2 years old.
Mhm.
He's just a little toddler, and again, you know what, Will, I get the chance
Right.
to try
Wrong
it again
some rights or right some
and
wrong, right.
right wrongs.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's kinda like you said that when you think about with grandkids, and on the same token, when people get to have their grandchild, they know what mistakes they made with their kids. No, and I don't mean that but it is the
Yeah.
truth, because, but also when you say that, you know, and I don't wanna go on like you said about being a drill sergeant at home, but I mean, I know what that was with my dad. I mean, he never was in the military, but grandpa was tough on him, but there's really nothing wrong with that, because look at, when you're raising your kids, you know, and I don't wanna switch it all around like that, but it is the truth, there is consequences to our reactions,
Yeah.
and some of this, you know, but I can imagine when you're used to controlling, cause the one veteran we had on, in charge of the tanks and different $1 million worth of equipment and 10 guys, and now he comes home and he's working at an AutoZone, stocking parts, and he feels worthless, even though he is making a living, but he feels worthless because they don't trust him to take the car to deliver parts. You know,
Right.
on that same token, it just,
Yeah.
do you know that I
Yeah.
did this and do this, and I had 9 guys, but now you want
Making
me
a
to,
difference,
Yeah.
accepted,
yeah.
you know, being
But you
part
don't
of
trust me in the
something.
Prius to go deliver parts, you know, and I drove $1 million or whatever, and I can see that too. That's
this is
that's a
why-
harsh reality.
This is why
Or
we do the
tough.
show,
To transition to that.
so we can make a difference even in one person.
Yeah, 'cause one life, when you said that when we first started the show, yeah, just one person is worth, you know, what is a life worth? Meaning,
Yeah.
there's no price to that, so to save one person, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Or
that was
10
my,
people and
that was
then
my goal from the
5
beginning,
right,
right, is
exactly.
to make a difference
And
in
3 years
one
from now,
person's
somebody
life.
sees this
Right.
video, 5 years, cause
Mhm.
once it's on YouTube, it's forever, you know, but cause you can look back at videos 4 years from now.
Well, and I just told
You
Joel
know, it's the
today,
truth.
right, so Joel is our first, he's now our president, he was the first one to complete this program, right? Joel is a
Talking
completely
to you,
different
Joel,
man
right now.
today than what he was
Sure.
before he got to the
Mhm.
farm, right? And I told him today, something for him to go to the Sylvania Chamber and represent
Our organization and accept that award, right? I was so proud of him, and
and I
Right,
told
sure.
him that, to see somebody grow like that in front of your eyes is amazing, right?
Right.
And, again, I told him
I was so proud of him, and we kinda talked about how the
I'm telling him right
organization,
now, he's watching,
he knows I'm proud of him.
and he's watching.
And we talked about when I got back to the office today, is like how I was on a phone call, right, with a Rotary, trying to take care of business, let people know about who we are. He's at the Sylvania Chamber accepting an award, letting people know who we are. And Kyle's here in the office,
taking care of things in the office, if somebody stops by here, that is amazing to me. I cannot believe how we've grown and what is happening in this organization. It's mind-blowing to me, you know? But it's to make a difference in people.
is really what we're doing.
I thoroughly believe good things happen to good people, you know, and good things happen
Mhm.
when they're supposed to happen.
Oh, yeah,
Doesn't mean bad doesn't happen, but,
Mhm.
but eventually good things do happen to good people when you're doing the right thing. So you're doing the right thing.
I am trying, for sure.
You're affecting lives one at a time, and using horses and people to do it.
Well, in your case, look at it. I mean, just when you do the numbers, you know, all your kids, right? Natalie and him, plus the people you're reaching, you start doing them numbers, that went from one person to how many people?
Oh, yeah,
Just
it's,
that you helped from
well, and
Hancock,
Yeah,
and
and-
what's your little, one dog, I don't know.
Leland?
No, the one I give the little dog,
Avonlea.
Avonlea.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
sweet pea.
little,
Yeah.
yeah,
Avonlea.
she's something, and Pudge is pretty good too, but they all are, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, anyway, I don't wanna get all going on that.
yeah, but it is amazing
Yeah.
when
Mhm.
And one of my favorite things, I know I just stopped and went somewhere else, but one of
Squirrel.
my favorite things is watching the relationships that are forming
outside of what's happening at Little Blessings, right? So like, they've built these relationships and now they're going in the community, right?
Right.
And they're going together to these art
studios, and like Natalie and a couple of the girls went and spent the day with Natalie's birthday making something for Natalie, right? So
When's your birthday?
stop it. We're building these
It
relationships.
was last week, you didn't know?
Dang it.
Yeah, it was Thursday,
I'm
last
horrible
Thursday.
with-
Yeah.
But it wouldn't surprise
April
you,
30th, wasn't it?
you know, our family, people look at our family and, you know, they've always said it's a perfect family, you have all these kids.
Oh, yeah,
it's
sure.
So lovely.
You own your
you
own
know,
business.
You own your own
You-
business,
yeah.
you write everything
Oh,
off.
yeah,
it's
you
great.
get free copper, yeah, all that stuff. No, that's
It's-
right.
You know, but up, you know, 3-4 months before I came home, we were talking separation. I mean, this is how serious
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
was when Natalie finally had the
Intestinal
intestinal
fortitude,
Right.
you know, to say,
The
You
balls
will
to say
not-
it, yeah.
you will not come home the way you came
Right.
home and the way you left.
we cannot make it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as I think about that when
Probably
we
pretty
talked,
mad at Duke Farms at that point, weren't you?
she
I'm
told
just
me
kidding.
that.
What the hell did she learn at that farm? I'm sorry.
She told me that via an email,
Right.
and I was
At that point in time in my life,
absolutely furious.
I believe it.
I was.
I've been
I
there.
mean, we didn't talk for 2 weeks,
Sure.
almost 2 weeks. We did not converse.
And part of my anger was,
Don't you see everything I've done before I left? Like how I changed, you know. And I always looked at 2016 and 15 as like the darkest. This is when I was really an angry person. I was doing crazy stuff and crazy thoughts and, you know, suicidal
and then, you know, I wasn't home and yelling to the kids, look at everything I did, like,
I was incredibly upset at her for telling me that.
Well, we
like,
do that.
Don't you see all the good things I did?
Mhm.
And we
we both had to come to a lot of agreements after.
after that, like, but this is only a few months ago, or a few months before I came home. This is
How close we were to not being a family unit.
Mhm.
And, you know, then after New Year's, like, the last 3 months
of the deployment, things
really, really turned around, and I think
that was because, I mean, the writing on the wall was, we can't do this,
and I wrote her a long letter,
and she said some things, and that back to me, and we had some conversation, and, you know, it was
ugly, like, it didn't look like, it was like, we might as well chalk it up, we're
not gonna make it. 4 tours, that's it, you know, and
Mhm.
thank God that things have changed, and, I mean, that was a snap back
back to reality.